There is an alarm bell, though, that's going off that I do want to hit on.
In Carolina?
Here. The one in Carolina, yes. They're 0-5. And this soundbite from Frank Reich, this one hit me. I don't know if we've played this one yet on the show, but this one hit me. That, David Tepper, the owner of the Carolina Panthers, is a guy who's hands-on. We just talked about a hands-on owner in Dallas, but he's got trophies in the case. We all know David Tepper still relatively new to management and ownership in this league. And so Frank Reich had this to say about how much he's hearing from his boss still being winless heading into week 6.
When you say David Tepper won't sit idly by, what does that mean exactly? I mean, is he getting more involved in some way? I mean,
no, I just think it's
asking for things to happen.
Well, listen, I don't want to speak too much for him, obviously, but there's different philosophies in ownership. You know what I mean? Some owners kind of stay away and don't engage a whole lot. Other owners do. And his philosophy is he's going to engage. And listen, it's only been a short experience, but it's been a really good experience. It hasn't been fun. It's not fun. Those meetings aren't, I wouldn't characterize them as fun meetings. But those meetings make me better, and I trust they make us better.
Now, I don't know where to go with this one because I love Frank Reich, and if I'm the owner of the Carolina Panthers, and I've just made this big move for the first overall pick, would I be calling meetings with him, or would I just let him be? I don't know what sort of unhappy meetings and how they're not fun meetings, what that accomplishes with somebody who's Frank Reich. Certainly when this stuff comes out, it lends credence to what's kind of an open secret in the league right now. And I don't know if this is, in fact, the case. And I don't usually traffic in this sort of stuff, but I'll throw it out because this is what you quote unquote hear, is that they were sold on Stroud and the owner wasn't. And the owner wanted Bryce Young.
Interesting. And it can't help that C.J. Stroud has yet to throw a pick, and he is lights out.
That's the whole point here.
Wow.
And so I'm just wondering, if there's a hot seat there, they would be, I'll just say this, very foolish to one and done Frank Reich.
Well, what if it's for Bill Belichick?
Dun, dun, dun.
Would you really, is that what is that another open secret you're throwing there?
No, when Tom
one and
Kern
done
was,
Frank Reich for Bill Belichick.
When Tom Kern was on last hour, he was like, I said to Tom, I asked him, let's say Bill's not there next year, do you think he'd coach somewhere else? And Tom goes, wow, let's get to the where should we put Bill Belichick in 24 part of the show. And Brockman over here goes, what if Brandon Staley crashes and burns this year? You got a perfect situation. Bill's not young. You got Justin Herbert and Joey Bosa and Derwin James. I don't think Carolina would ever make any sense there at all. Never.
I don't.
You got Brian Burns and Bryce Young, and
this is crazy.
I know it is. You know what they have in Carolina, though? And I had this conversation, Rich, with Frank Reich on NFL Network at the Combine. There are a lot of cooks in the kitchen there. You got 2 former head coaches on his staff, and Jim Caldwell and Dom Capers. You have all these future head coaches on the staff. People think Thomas Brown's going to be a head coach.
There's
right?
tons
People
of them
think
it's a great coaching staff, man.
Is going to be a head coach as well. One of these days, you have Josh McCown, who's a promising young assistant now, obviously just finally getting his feet wet there. Deuce Staley is there. And I asked Frank, that's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. And you kind of bowed up and push back against it. But I have heard that you go back to ownership. That was something that David Caldwell wanted, right? you're going to bring in Frank Reich, but let's get a lot of big brains in here to make sure we get this right. Not saying that's the reason they're not winning, but
let me ask you this question. Would you guys be an owner that has meetings with your coach?
Every week?
I think there's got to be a middle ground.
Yeah. No, not
There's a difference between hands off and meddling. I'd be in the middle, but no, I would not do meetings every week.
Like, again, because fantasy football, you take a look at the Jones family. They run the Cowboys like you run your fantasy team.
Yeah.
Which is I'm in charge. I draft the players. I pick the roster. I make the decisions on game day. Let's go. And they're still waiting on another trophy. And I just don't know if I'd be that type of owner with Frank Reich. You've made the decision. Certainly if I'm the one who made the decision to say, I'm putting my thumb on the scale, I want the kid from Alabama over the kid from Ohio State. But that's the whole, and when you hear these conversations being had, I don't know who's putting it out there. I don't know who's saying that sort of stuff from Carolina, but there's already some fingers being pointed right now. And I feel for Frank Reich. Like Frank knows he's got a really talented kid right there, and they haven't computed yet. And to see CJ Stroud look the way that he's looked, I guess at least for their benefit, Anthony Richardson can't stay healthy. So I don't know. I would just counsel the Panthers to let Frank Reich do his thing. You hired him to do his thing. And certainly if you hired him and made the decision at quarterback that potentially he wasn't thoroughly sold on, then I don't know what it accomplishes to do, the nonstop meeting thing once a week. And the coach is like, I'll tell you, it's not fun. Not going to sit idly by. I mean, that's a great follow-up question. What does that mean? You're going to get fired? Carolina's schedule does not look good. Well, they got Miami coming up this week. That is a problem.
Well, the thought of giving the number one pick to the Bears, too, like the number one overall pick, if they were to get that, the thought of giving that to the Bears, it is a long, long season. But like everyone asks, well, what do you do with Justin Fields if you have the number one pick? Well, it depends whose number one pick it is. If it's your number one pick, then obviously there's a problem here, and you likely move on from Justin Fields. But if Justin Fields played well and it's Carolina's number one pick, then that's a different conversation. And the idea that if you're David Tepper now, you're thinking, everything was looking up here, and it's only a month, but Bryce Young has yet to show a lot of an it factor, but they can't stretch the field. Adam Thielen's your number one. What's his name? Terrace Marshall, not Terrence, Terrace now says, I don't know why I didn't play this week. I don't know if you caught that. Jonathan Mingo took all his snaps.
Look, the latest Forbes
and Chuba Hubbard's taking more snaps than Miles Sanders.
Out, Rich. David Tepper, $20.6 billion. He don't care. He'll fire anybody. He'll just pay him out.
That's true.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.